Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Wherever you are on this amazing living thing called Earth.
I'm Ariel.
I'm Shya.
Welcome to being here.
Yeah.
And if you're finding yourself not quite being here yet, good. If you're finding yourself really crisp, good. However you are is the perfect place to start listening to this podcast. And if we slow down what I just said, it's about listening to this podcast rather than your commentary in your mental construct about this podcast.
It's about listening and letting the words come into you rather than agreeing with it or disagreeing with it or saying, oh, I've heard this before. I know this concept. It's about discovering how to experience living again rather than thinking about living.
I was listening to a podcast this morning because I went out and to an appointment and I was driving the car, and something happened where rather than concentrating down on what I was doing, everything relaxed and opened up, and I was hearing the words and I was aware of the traffic pattern. And of course, I was doing the activity of driving, but I became aware of the leaves and the colors and the wind. And allow yourself to just be wherever you are and listen for the sake of listening, not to get somewhere, not to be a better you, just to be. And it's enough. You're enough.
Yes.
Today's episode, will you ever be a Mensch? You know, we read it to ourselves before starting, and you said, Shya, that you had a bunch of different things come to mind.
But it left in my listening. Yeah. When you're a Mensch, that means a human being in German, a person of integrity and honor. You know, when I was young, I lacked. I think all of us ultimately have integrity, but interimly, we may not. And in my early years, I did not have integrity, and I was not an honorable person. It's just the way it was. I was raised by people who had survived great hardship over many generations. And so honor and integrity were not important. Survival was. And, I did things that I do not do anymore. I would cheat on my income tax if I paid income tax. I would cheat. I would steal. I would do things that were unethical, immoral, lacking integrity. But that's all I knew growing up. So if my life could transform and I could become a person of integrity and honor, anybody could, because I was not your prime candidate. I was not the Dalai Lama, In any event, what's possible is discovering that life takes care of you when you are honorable and have integrity. And when you cheat or steal, it's because you feel you won't survive unless you do. And the interesting thing is, if you surrender to your life as it's showing up, you survive very well and you discover you have integrity.
One of the things I enjoy about you talking this morning, Shya, is that, or afternoon actually, um, as you're relating how you were, how you stole or you cheated or your reality, it's neutral. It's a fact.
Mhm.
And that's one of the brilliances or the magic of transformation is sometimes we winnow it down to being kind to yourself, but
Well,
really it's a non.
well, what it really is realizing that you can only be exactly as you are in the current moment of your life. That's really where it comes from. Then if you look at that, if you get that, then you realize you could have only been as you were in any previous moment of your life. So that was the only way you could have been. So there's no recrimination for being the only way you could have been. That was your only possibility, your only choice, the only thing you knew. Those relationships that didn't work, they couldn't work. They weren't meant to. They worked to the degree that they could. But to berate yourself for your past robs you of the current moment of your life. And that's where your life is taking place. So you can, berate yourself, talk about how you should have done it differently, but you couldn't have.
And by the way, just for all of us, if we think of the duality of life like a coin, heads and tails, if you berate yourself, that's one side of the coin, and the other side of that is congratulate yourself for how far you've come, or how well you're doing, and neither one of them supports your well-being, although it's, seems more fun to go, ooh, I did really good here, so it's really about being here. Isn't that wild?
Isn't that
all
wild?
Those years ago when we not only entitled our books that, but then this podcast, it is all about being here. Should we take our first guest? All right, Miss Cheryl, welcome to being here. And where are you zooming in from?
Hi Ariel, hi Shya. I'm zooming in from Hong Kong today. It's nice to be here with you both.
It's nice to have you here. And, every time I see you, Cheryl, I am so grateful for Zoom, because it used to be you'd have to fly into New York or Costa Rica or Germany, which you did. And I always found that really honorable that you would come where we were offering courses. But I love being able to see you with consistency at the Living Made Easy seminars on Mondays or Tuesdays or Saturdays, and also the weekends as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, sorry, I think my internet connection just broke for a second. But yes, thank you as well. I enjoy these the Living Made Easy seminars. Feeling really lucky that I can join in every week as much as possible, and I have noticed the difference that it's made in my life, as well as you guys had been on holiday, and there were or maybe I guess about a week and a half or something, two Living Made Easies that I couldn't join because they weren't happening, and I could really tell the difference of I don't know how I missed having a regular dose of Living Made Easy.
I get that. It's a little bit like the gymnasium of the soul. We drop into the magic of community, of being here, of being kind to ourselves, of all of those aspects. And without it, we can handle it on our own, but it's just so much easier. It is living made easy when we get together.
Yes, and after those sessions, I feel so much different from when I started, from when the session started, and even now, just listening to you and Shya speak for 5 or so minutes, I can already start to feel a sense of ease, and yeah, it's really great to to have this as an opportunity.
You know, Cheryl,
Yeah.
Ariel and I, we're unique in that we've been able to maintain our connection with transformation, you know, including the ups and downs of life that often are upsetting and take us into our mind and worrying about how the future will turn out. But somehow we've been able over these past 39 years that we've been together to maintain a memory of or an experience of being transformed. Now, the first few years of our relationship, we weren't. And then we were normal. And then we had thoughts that complained about each other. We had lists of grievances about how the other person should be different. But when transformation tripped us up, when we fell into the moment, when we suddenly realized the perfection of this moment of our lives, we became Mensches. And that's what, so you talk about before the Living Made Easy seminar and afterwards and how different you feel. Of course, because before you were lost in what you wanted, what you thought you needed to be satisfied, well, happy.
Or what you resisted from the day.
Yes.
That's a big place where people get lost. And I think now for a lot of people who are initiated into a transformational either lifestyle or ideas, if they resist something, they feel bad for having resisted it rather than watching it like, oh, look it, I just got tight when this happened, or I find myself not liking this situation or that person. The observership sometimes falls away.
Yes, I think I had a situation like that today at work, and in trying to think about what I wanted to ask in relation to being a mensch, and what that meant, and at work we're going into busy period, and we had a strategy meeting today. I guess you'd call it a strategy meeting, and maybe it's me being perfectionist or wanting to do things a certain way, but also maybe just a preference. So I was trying to get as much information as I could so that when we met with our boss, then, we'd have as much ready for her so that it would be a smoother meeting. And it was something minor, but there's something, a document that needed to get updated. And I asked my colleague who had originally updated it, how can I update it? And I wasn't getting the answer. And I kept trying to figure out, am I just not asking in the right way? And I tried different ways and I never got to the answer. And what she ended up telling me was that it was the document was created by an external party, like a graphic designer. So I just sort of left it. And then we went into the meeting, and during the meeting, that the topic came up by our manager, and she said, "Well, have you updated it?" And I said no, because I don't know, something along the lines of it needed to be updated by someone else. And then my colleague says, "Oh no, well, I can update it." And I found myself getting like upset, like we could have had this done before we went in, and I had wanted to, and I just feel like I was upset with myself, but then I was also upset with her. But along the lines of what you were saying, I could see that conversation in my mind of like it was playing out, like, why am I upset with myself? I'm upset with myself, or I should be upset with her. And I was having this whole conversation, getting upset, but then also, because of what I've learned here, in a way, reeling it back a little, I guess.
Well, you say reeling back a little, but you see, the reality is you resisted what was going on and got stuck in what you resisted. Because anything you say no to or disagree with, that's where you get stuck. So I have a friend, his name is Andy. He teaches improvisation. And in improvisation, you say yes and to what, yes to whatever is said to you, and then you take it from there somewhere else. But when you say no, improvisation ends, creativity ends, upset begins. You know, to upset something is to well, I can't, the definition of it eludes me right now, but we don't really need that. When you get upset, when you say no to something, you get stuck with whatever you disagree with. So this happened at work, and we're talking about it now because they're still holding on to that upset.
And I also find when you lay it out, a whole series of questions come up for me that has me want to help you solve this problem. Like, did you say we'd like to have this updated? I know she'll need it, but the content doesn't matter because here you are. So we can't go back like we were talking with Shya was talking about who he was back when. There may be ways to approach it in the future. But I do see that in that moment, you were not able to go, I asked you this repeatedly because I wanted to have it for today, and you said it had to be done by a outside person. I'm a little surprised you're saying that now. It's like you didn't fully, I bet you froze.
I did, yes. And that's when I realized I was having these conversations like, where did I go wrong? How did I not ask why? How did I get to this point? But yes, I froze.
Well, I love that. And I'll tell you why. You used to freeze all the time. Would watch your face and you'd have colliding thoughts. We could be in a seminar, in-person seminar. It could be at a meal, and your face would get this frozen quality. You used to second guess yourself as a lifestyle. So now that it happens occasionally, wow.
Congratulations.
That's pretty cool.
Look, here's the other thing. A friend of ours sent us a quote today that I found really interesting. It was a Dalai Lama quote, and in it, the Dalai Lama said, "There's nothing you can do about yesterday or tomorrow. The only day you can do anything is today. Your life is happening today, not someday in the future. Not so. Don't strategize how you're going to be the next time, because if you strategize for it, you won't be there when it shows up. You will do what you thought of today, and it will be inappropriate for tomorrow."
And you anticipated that this document needed to be done, and you went about it as effectively as you knew how. And now you have a more expanded sense of yourself. But if you keep working on that, as Shya said, that will create a strategy for next time that will be out of sync with that moment.
Yeah, yes. And I could see I was not letting it go because maybe additionally because I found it as a failing, even though it was just a document.
But here's the thing: you only find failings. You disregard your greatness and look at your self-perceived flaws or inadequacies. And I notice that about people all the time. People are amazing. You are amazing. And what you look at are the things you didn't do right. Everything you did great, you forget about immediately.
Yeah, yes. It takes me back to last week. I was in a press conference, part of a press conference, and I had my notes, and there were four of us speaking. And after I spoke, I noticed that I had a few, kind of hiccups, or didn't say something according to my notes. And then I compared myself to the other person who didn't need any notes, and rather than, to your point, rather than see how it's an achievement to be on that at that press conference, I looked at what I did wrong
That's right.
and compared to.
But it's interesting how you want to make your notes, as opposed to this other person's extemporaneous style, wrong. You don't know that that person didn't leave that press conference and in their thoughts go, oh my God,
I should have
I
made a
forgot that thing to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because he, at the end of all of our portions of speaking, he actually was asked when it came time to open up to questions from the media. Then he actually said, well, if no one in the media has a question, I have a first question, and he directed it to me. And he actually said, I really loved what you said. I have some questions about your gong playing. And I didn't notice that either, that he
admired you.
Yes, yeah.
See, and that's what I'm saying. See, you are a mensch. And then you have a mind that finds fault with you because, you're not supposed to be arrogant.
Yes.
That's not very Christian.
You know,
And you were brought up Christian.
Catholic, yes.
That's a form of Christianity.
Yes.
Yes. And so you were brought up in Christianity, and we were all born in sin according to Christianity. Well, how can a sinful person like you be magnificent? Except you are exactly the way you are. And God didn't make any mistakes in creating you in his or her image.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
can't do this life wrong, my dear.
I have an example for you, Cheryl, that you may not have considered. I'm going to use an example that will work for you. I know you do healing therapy with sound, and you use singing bowls and you use gongs, but I'm going to talk about gongs because not everybody has experienced singing bowls, but they've likely experienced it sometime or another, even if by watching a movie, although movie is one step removed, where somebody, a practitioner, somebody strikes a gong, and I'm in my mind making this a big gong, and it has a rather deep resonant vibration. You strike the gong and the vibration comes out and vibrates to everyone in the room. Mind you, I have had the experience that if I have my eyes closed and there are different practitioners striking the gong, it's a different experience depending on who's holding the mallet. So, but that's a whole different thing. So the vibration goes out and you experience it, but there's an interconnectedness because everybody in that vicinity is experiencing in their own way that vibration. Did you follow me so far?
I do, yes.
You are sitting on a panel of people, all of whom have their own insecurities. The vibration of that gong goes out and it strikes your concerns about yourself. Oh, look, he's not using notes. I am. you don't know that his isn't going, oh, look, she brought notes. I didn't think to do it. One of the things that happens for you is if you start picking on yourself and your thoughts, you think it's you, Cheryl, picking on yourself and your thoughts, as opposed to there may be a vibration happening in your environment. And then this is the cool part. If you allow yourself to be fine with those thoughts that want to pick on you, the sensations of nervousness, if you have them, you're giving permission to everyone around you to be okay with themselves as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
And I'll tell you something else. You mentioned something at the very beginning that we're going into our busy time, and I could see how we are predisposed to think busy time as potentially a bad time where everything is really crunched, the hours are long. I've often found busy times for Shya and I to be extraordinary because you don't have time to look at, listen to those thoughts. It's really action, action, action.
Well, here's the thing. The second principle of instantaneous transformation says no two things can occupy you at the same time. So you can either get lost in your thoughts about your inadequacies, or you can do your work. If you do your work, you become incredibly effective, and your work is really good. If you spend most of your time beating on yourself for how you did in the past, you don't do very good work. It takes a long time because you're constantly picking it up and dropping it, picking it up and dropping it, because those deprecating thoughts keep interrupting your workflow.
Yes.
So here's another possibility, Cheryl. Take our experience of you and operate through that rather than your conversation. And our experience of you is you are magnificent, you are capable, you are an amazing being.
And you are a Mensch.
And you are a Mensch.
I mean, it is 12:30-ish, and it's midnight 30-ish where you are. And here you are, not only zooming in order to share your experience or to ask questions, but to make a difference. And you don't come in as a victim because it's late. And every time you show up at a seminar, people are so happy to see you, not only because it's kind of cool to have somebody from Hong Kong zooming in, but because they know that you're making an expression of yourself, and whether you realize it or not, you're stating that you make a difference.
Thank you.
Yes, and we thank you for joining us.
I loved it. Thank you. I love it. Yes.
And I have to tell you, I do see the difference consistency is making for you.
Yes.
And I'm just so thrilled. We've had the theory that consistency makes a difference. We've seen it in New York City when we were doing the New York City and people would come every week. But it's really lovely to see that consistency happening for people around the world.
Yeah,
now.
via Zoom. So it's great.
And thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you both so much. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
It's time for our listener feedback spotlight.
Okay, so here we go.
We're going to hear from one of our listeners about how transformation has impacted her life or his life. Let's see.
Yeah, and if you'd like to learn more about what we're up to, you could register for any of our upcoming virtual courses.
Or sign up for our newsletter. Just visit
transformationmadeeasy.com. easy.com.
It really is easy.
It is easy if you know the way.
This is Corinne from Binningen in Switzerland, and I get to Costa Rica. And I love the community with Ariel and Shya to be there because I meet me. This gives me goosebumps because I got to know me, and it's always surprising for me to meet me again. And I look forward to go there, and I probably meet myself beforehand as well.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shya's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
If you'd like to join us for a Living Made Easy seminar, either on Saturday, like this one upcoming, or on Monday, or one Tuesday a month, you can go to transformationmadeeasy.com and find out when the next one is and how to go about joining us. We have a couple of weekend seminars that we're really pleased to be offering.
The first one is The Power of Listening, and that's December 11th and 12th. And we have discovered that listening is a skill set that most of us are very deficient in, even though we think we're good listeners. And then when you discover how to truly listen, a lot of life's burdens come off your shoulders, and you become a healing influence in the people around you, or for the people around you.
In January, at the beginning of the year, when most of us are tempted to make resolutions to be a better us, we're offering an alternative.
Fun as the access way to enlightenment.
On January 8th and 9th. And also a little bit later in January, for 2 weeks, we will be there hosting an instantaneous transformation seminars. Which
in Costa Rica, that's where we will be.
In Costa Rica, you are welcome to 1 week or 2. There is room for you. You can find out about any and all of our seminars at transformationmadeeasy.com. And additionally, if you're not yet signed up for our newsletter, I really recommend it. It comes out with videos, articles, beautiful pictures. They're inspiring. People write blogs. They're sweet. They're moving. And if you feel to, you can partake. Let's take our next.
Yes. So we're
Yes.
Anina.
Hi, Anina.
Hello.
Where are you zooming in from, sweetheart?
Zooming in from Thun, Switzerland.
Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. Yeah, really, really great. And also to listen to you talk to Cheryl before. Regarding the topic of this being here, I had a funny experience while thinking of it. I thought, well, there is quite a lot of expectations to be really a Mensch, like with integrity and all the, with integrity all the time. And I wondered if it's at all possible to be a Mensch. But after I heard you talk to Cheryl, I feel like a Mensch now already. So it's very good.
That's great.
I think one of the things that was making it challenging for you is you wanted to add the time component. And time is in the change realm. you have past and future. There's this through line, there's effort, there's judgment and evaluation. There's the good Anina and the bad Anina, and the right one and the wrong one, and the Mensch one and the one, rather than in this moment, being here. It's now-based transformation. And it happens in a state of honesty, where when you're being honest with yourself.
The whole thing, transformation is based in honesty. It's based in seeing what is, but not through the filter of what you'd prefer, and not through the filter of being right and having other people be wrong. See, transformation is about the isness of the moment. What is happening in this moment in your life? That's where transformation resides. It isn't about right or wrong or good or bad. It's about what is. If you see what is and you're honest about what is, it can transform in an instant. If you want it to be a certain way and you try to manipulate things to get it the way you want it, which of course is based in your conditioning and programming from the culture you grew up in, well, then it doesn't work out very well. Most people are not very satisfied because life does not provide what you need to be fulfilled on a cultural level. It provides what you need to be fulfilled if you are here for it, which requires the honesty to see what is. Not disagree with that.
But if you have a desire for Menschdom, I made that word up.
Yes.
That's change. That's also the statement that you aren't already.
Yes.
Rather than noticing when you're centered and when you're not. I have a very silly example.
Oh, wow.
When I used to go to Pilates, I haven't done it in a while. I had an instructor and I was talking about my core muscles. And she said, if you want to develop your core muscles, when you go home at night, when you brush your teeth, try standing on one leg. So one of, like almost like a yoga pose to see if you can be upright and develop strength through that'll be a core muscle exercise. So I have a Sonicare toothbrush and it does sides of my mouth in 30 seconds, 30 seconds lower, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. So I started standing on one leg for the lower right jaw, then the other leg for the lower left. And it's like that. And Shya was always really fun with that because he'd come over, he could knock me over with one finger, and I'd be wobbling there whilst brushing my teeth. And this core muscle, it was not about never falling off that leg or off my center. It was about discovering today, how am I today is, oh, my right side is not as strong as my left side. I'm more wobbly today. It was about seeing what is. And as I'm seeing what is, I was also strengthening that core muscle. But judging yourself for falling off your leg doesn't make that any stronger, it just makes you miserable.
Yeah, that's I like that.
Here's the other thing. You could take your attention off you and live your life. I mean, live your life rather than see how you're doing.
See, that was part of that Dalai Lama quote. He was talking about how the past and the future you can't do anything about, but today is a day for loving and all sorts of things, but in particular, living your life. And of course, I actually think a day is much too long of a time frame, but
Right.
It's something that people can grasp.
Yeah.
But you can go through many, many states in a single day, that's for sure.
Yeah, I love that, really. And I find it so interesting that sometimes I fall out of Menschdom, and sometimes I'm in it without even giving a thought about it. So
Well, that's the point, my dear. See, you are a Mensch, and when you think about it, you think yourself out of Menschdom.
yeah,
Because you find fault with you. You have judgments about you that I don't have, that Ariel doesn't have. Each person sees themselves as less than other people see them.
mhm.
Just the way it is.
Now, if you don't try to fix that, you're free. That you have ideas, they're records that have been recorded by you or by the culture you grew up in, by you in moments of contraction. They're in there. They're like records in a jukebox or part of your playlist on your iPhone. And every once in a while they play, but they don't mean anything. And lots of times people go, oh, I have this negative thought about myself. I'd be better if I didn't have them. I'm not sure who you'd be if you didn't have some of those in there. But it doesn't mean you have to listen to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That makes so open. Yeah.
You know, I had an exchange with you last week. There was a meeting that we had last Sunday, and we had a Google document where people RSVP'd whether or not they were coming, and you hadn't forgotten to do that. And so we, had a WhatsApp exchange, boy, technology. And you're like, oh, I forgot to do that. I'll do it as soon as I get home. I'm traveling. And I said, oh, how about I do it for you now that I know you're coming? And this quote mistake was this incredible opportunity for connection if neither one of us treated the fact that you hadn't RSVP'd yet as wrong. Every moment is an opportunity to say, as Shya was saying, yes, and yes. And Anina hasn't responded yet. How about I reach out to her? You can skip the part about being hard on yourself.
You'll have a lot more time in your life if you do that.
Yes. It's so funny that you say that, Ariel, because when I saw your text, the berating myself and telling myself names wanted to really start. It was like raising its head. And then I actually told myself, that's optional. I can also choose not to, and just to reply to you.
Good for you.
Well, I felt it. And it was lovely,
Congratulations.
lovely, lovely being with you. I felt like I hadn't seen you in a long time, and I got to see you in those exchanges. It was very sweet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that you have the option. Lots of people don't have the option. And from time to time, you probably don't either, where just suddenly it jumps up and calls you a name, that thought process.
Yeah.
But it's lovely that you have a separation between you and that berating machine, so that we're not going there.
Yeah. 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 And these options, I'm very clear, they came from hanging out with you. So either here on Zoom or before on person or in Costa Rica in person. And that's also why I'm personally so happy that Costa Rica is happening next January and that I can make it.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've missed as powerful as Zoom is, I've missed the personal interactions in person.
And I'm really excited. We're finding a way to make it as safe as possible, with everybody being fully vaccinated and having the the
Tests.
more deep tests before flying, and then the rapid tests upon arrival, and so that in the staff, so that we can all be there comfortably with each other in such a incredible environment, and actually have the opportunity to hug each other once again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
Well, consider yourself virtually hugged. And thank you so much for
too.
being here with folks today, including
Yes.
us.
That's right.
Yes. It's a pleasure.
Mm,
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so
welcome.
much. If you're enjoying this podcast, leave a review on your favorite podcast app so it helps other people find being here. And if you feel to do it, thanks in advance. And you can always take this episode and share it with friends. I found both Cheryl and Anina deeply moving, and I wouldn't be surprised if your friends found it that way as well. Next week's episode,
Lubba, lubba, lubba me.
lubba, lubba, lubba me, please lubba me. Yes, you'll find out what that is when you tune in. We'll be back next week,
So come on back,
and don't miss
being here.